There's a few things I want to show you in this clip, or a few things that are confusing and highlighting and pretty scary, really, about what's going on here. Now, this is a clip that's been shared by probably a few people and will be shared, and it's a battle between Poilievre and Trudeau in the Houses of Parliament in question time. And all the headlines are, oh yeah, they're battling and everything. But the takeaway from this is, it seems that our Prime Minister doesn't really care about Canada and appears to be changing subjects at will in the Houses of Parliament towards the battle for Ukraine. I'm like, we've got issues in Canada, big issues in Canada, mass immigration, mass homelessness, people on the streets sleeping in tents, and all he wants to do is deflect and talk about the Ukraine. Just let's start with Pierre.
This Prime Minister has forced 7 million Canadians to cut back on their diet to a point where they are no longer healthy. This Prime Minister has forced Canadians to cut their budget for food, and therefore a record-smashing 2 million people are lined up at a food bank every month around corners in ways that we haven't seen since the Great Depression. That's the austerity he's imposed on Canadians. Now he wants to quadruple the carbon tax on the farmers who bring us our food. We have a common sense conservative bill, C-234. Will the Prime Minister stop blocking this bill in the Senate, let it pass so that our farmers can produce food and our people can afford to eat it?
So fair question, yeah? And you'd think he'd come back and he would say something about the farmers, and you think he would say, he would carry on then and tell Canadians not to worry because we've got this in hand, where we've got Canadians' backs. We're going to give so much support. We're going to start cancelling carbon tax, and we're going to reduce grocery bills and going to make everything much better. You'd think he'd talk about Canada.
If the Leader of the Opposition actually cared about Canadians being able to afford their food, they wouldn't have dragged their heels on the passage of C-56 that is increasing competition in the grocery sector. But indeed, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of factors that deliver higher food prices, not just for Canadians, for people around the world. And one of the key ones is Russia's continued illegal invasion of Ukraine, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we can affirm clearly that we will stand with Ukraine with everything necessary for as long as necessary. As we saw last week, no Conservative politician can say the same in this House.
I told you, all he's bothered about is Ukraine. He's more bothered about things that happen outside Canada than he is about things that are happening actually in Canada. That's very disturbing to listen to when he stood there talking in Parliament, for him to stand there and not even offer help or talk about the help that's going to be given. All he wants to do is help other countries and send money there and help them. It's great to be able to do that, but help this country first. This country should come first. Number one, Canadians should be number one.
Actually, we are the only party that has stood with Ukraine, Mr. Speaker, rather than trying to impose a carbon tax. But, you know, this Prime Minister, I understand what he's doing. He has imposed so much misery here at home, whether by doubling housing costs, forcing people into tent encampments, forcing 2 million people to go to a food bank. These are the problems here at home at the kitchen table. He is so desperate to talk about anything else that he avoids talking about what's happening in our own country. So will he answer the question? Will he take his tax off our farmers so our people can afford to eat?
Pierre Poilievre explained it exactly. Justin Trudeau, he's not got a clue. His mind is in another country. And you know what? He's so adamant about foreign affairs and delving into foreign countries. He wants to win this battle in Ukraine himself. He wants to be the guy who wins it. He doesn't want to win the hearts and minds of Canadians. His mind is somewhere else, totally somewhere else. He doesn't care about Canada. He obviously doesn't care about Canada. because this is what he says
The
next.
Leader of the Opposition full well knows that 97% of fuel emissions in the agricultural sector, in the farming sector, are already exempt from our price on pollution. But he is so desperate to try and score partisan points that he actually refused to stand in support of something Volodymyr Zelensky asked us for in this House. How is the Leader of the Opposition explaining to Ukrainian Canadians right across the country that he no longer stands with Ukraine on things that they need right now to win this war against Russia?
Well, there you go, 100% proof. He does not care about Canadians, not one jot. He cares about what's happening in other countries much, much more than he does about Canadians. His international brain is internationally lodged. He just wants to fly places and protect them places. He does not want to protect Canadians. What do you think? Do you think he's just full of BS? Do you think he's worth another 4 years? Do you think we should vote him back in? I don't think so. No, it's time to get rid of this guy who doesn't like Canadians, or doesn't even want to talk about Canadians, or doesn't even want to discuss the issues that Canadians are having. He'd rather deflect and talk about what's happening a million miles away. Till next time.